Living within your own nature. How does that sound, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. I am Chase Corrington. Thank you for being here. I appreciate everybody who spends their time with me, with Dr. Wayne Dyer, and all the wonderful authors and poets of the wisdom of the ages, as well as Lao-tzu, the author of the Tao Te Ching. And it is Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen, so you know what that means. It's time to do the Tao now. Tuesday Tao. Because we're reading from Dr. Wayne W. Dyer's Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. And we've been doing this every Tuesday since the beginning of this year. And we're now past halfway through this year. We're actually quite a bit past, almost 1 month now. We're on 7/26/2022 is the date, ladies and gentlemen. It is 12:51 p.m. for me here in the Mountain Time Zone. I don't know why I felt necessary to mention that today, but we will see why in the future. And like I began with, we're going to be talking about what Wayne Dyer says and titles his extrapolation on this 38th verse of the Tao Te Ching, living within your own nature. And so think to yourself now, before we dive too deeply into this, what that might mean for you and what your own nature really is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for being here. Grab yourself a nice beverage, whether it's cool or hot. 38th verse of the Tao Te Ching. A truly good man is not aware of his goodness, and is therefore good. A foolish man tries to be good, and is therefore not good. The master does nothing, yet he leaves nothing undone. The ordinary man is always doing things, yet many more are left to be done. The highest virtue is to act without a sense of self. The highest kindness is to give without condition. The highest justice is to see without preference. When the Tao is lost, there is goodness. When the goodness is lost, there is morality. When morality is lost, there is ritual. Ritual is the husk of true faith, the beginning of chaos. The great master follows his own nature and not the trappings of life. It is said, he stays within the fruit and not the fluff. He stays with the firm and not the flimsy. He stays with the true and not the false. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, that's a powerful verse of the Tao Te Ching. What stands out to me there is how it directly relates, and it goes right after the 37th verse, which talked about living in simplicity, but the Tao does nothing but leaves nothing undone. And remember, the whole world will be transformed if we consider ourselves in its natural rhythms. Now, this verse here talking about, this idea of a man who is not aware of his goodness is therefore good. The master does nothing, yet leaves nothing undone. Once again, this doing nothing and leaving nothing undone. The ordinary man or woman is always doing things, yet many more are left to be done. And so my mind's thinking, when we put titles and labels on all the tasks that we have to do, instead of just being and doing what it is that we have to do without putting it in a list and labeling and doing all these extra things that aren't really necessary. It's just fascinating, though. The highest virtue is to act without a sense of self. The highest kindness is to give without condition. And the highest justice is to see without preference. Powerful. So let's dive right into living within your own nature, ladies and gentlemen, and see what that can mean for each and every one of us as we go through Wayne Dyer's extrapolation and my own thoughts as well on this 38th verse of the Tao Te Ching. All right, so Wayne Dyer begins here by saying, here's the message behind this seemingly paradoxical verse of the Tao Te Ching. And remember, we love these paradoxes because it teaches us so much more about not only ourselves, but the nature of reality, because we've come to be stuck in this idea of separation and this and that and these and those and good and bad and dark and light and whatever dichotomy that you can come up with, whatever separation that you can come up with. But the true nature of reality itself is there's this oneness that exists between, there's this connection that exists between all things that is below or underlies the nature of this separation or two-ness that we see so easily from our ego mind's perspective. So, that's kind of what I think of when it comes to paradoxes and their importance. Just like the foolish man tries to be good, excuse me, and therefore is not good. It's like the more you try to, prove your worthiness, the less worthy you become. And the more that you just go about your business, the more worthy you become. I don't know. There's different ways to say it. But anyways, this seemingly paradoxical verse of the Tao Te Ching, your nature, Wayne Dyer continues, is to be good because you came from the Tao, which is goodness. But when you're trying to be good, your essential nature becomes inoperative. So in your effort to be good, moral, obedient, or whatever it is, you lose touch with your Tao nature. Or you could just say with your own nature. And in this effort, and see, this was something that I learned from Zen mind, beginner's mind, is in your effort, you change the process itself. So the things that we do should be done for the simple act of doing them, to create the best. It was talking about results and how so often we do things not to do them, but to achieve a result, to do something else. So our quality of what it is that we're doing is diminished because we're not doing it just to do it, if that makes any sense, ladies and gentlemen. That's another thing I love about this kind of stuff, is it makes you really think. Because when someone says, don't do something to do something else, do it just to do it, most people go, what? What are you talking about? And it makes you stop and think, like, wait a minute. So let's continue here. When you're trying to be good, your essential nature becomes inoperative. In your effort to be good, you lose touch with this nature, this essential nature. There's one sentence in this verse that I pondered for days before writing this short essay, Wayne says. When the Tao is lost, there is goodness. And see, that was the one that gave me pause. I was like, what? It's like, I thought the Tao was goodness. And so there's goodness when it's lost? What do you think, Wayne? Wayne says, I felt perplexed because it seemed so contradictory to what the Tao Te Ching was teaching. Finally, in a moment of contemplation while I meditated on a drawing of Lao-tzu, it became clear to me. Nature is good without knowing it, were the exact words I heard in my meditation. I then understood what Lao-tzu seemed to want me to convey about this somewhat confusing, to me, Wayne says, 38th verse of the Tao Te Ching. So let me just recap that bit there. When the Tao is lost, there is goodness. It's like, what? How? I thought the Tao was goodness. This is contradictory. And so what Wayne got is nature is good without knowing it. So once again, all the way back, ladies and gentlemen, to not the first, or not the third, second, but the first verse of the Tao Te Ching. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The Tao that can be named is not the eternal name. So keeping that first point about the Tao in mind, then when we read that when the Tao is lost, there is goodness, it's almost like when this attempt to tell or name that eternal thing that cannot be told or cannot be named because it is both named and nameless. The Tao is both named and nameless, back to the first verse here. As nameless, it is all things. As named, it becomes what is the world of the 10,000 things, kind of paraphrasing there. And the 10,000 things is everything that we've put labels and titles on and separated from each other and, have stopped seeing the connection. And so when back here, when we're talking about that, when the Tao is lost, there is goodness. I think what's being said is when this labeling and this naming and this attempting to, when all of that is lost, then there is goodness. But what came to Wayne Dyer in his meditation about that single line, and that's something you can do with all of this and all of the great wisdom of the ages, is you can meditate on these single lines. And when I say meditate, you don't have to, sit in a crisscross position on the floor and go, oh, you have to, it's contemplating that we're talking about. So you can be sitting in a chair like, really think about it and really try to apply, because why we're here, ladies and gentlemen, is we're trying to increase the quality of our lives and the lives of those around us through this great wisdom of the ages and the wisdom of the Tao and the wisdom of Wayne, and eventually the wisdom of ourselves as it flows through this process, living within our own nature. So back to what was being said here, nature is good without knowing it. So listen, Wayne says, and live by your essential nature, the Tao, which is oneness. That seems to be one of the key points of this here today, is this, the opposite of, separation and oneness, this paradox, and living within your own oneness or nature. Yet the moment that you know you're good, you introduce the polarity. So oneness has no polarity. But the moment that you know that you're good, you introduce the polarity of good versus bad, which causes you to lose your connection to the Tao, which is just oneness. There is no good or bad. There is just flowing, or, however you want to describe that oneness. And so you lose this connection. You introduce something new. You figure out that if you can't be good, you'll try to be moral. And what is morality but standards of right and wrong that you try to uphold? As Lao-tzu seems to be saying to me, Wayne says, the Tao is oneness. It has no standards for you to follow. In other words, the Tao just is. It isn't doing anything, yet leaves nothing undone. There's no morality. There is only the unattached Tao. It isn't right and it isn't fair, but it is essential nature. And you're encouraged to be true to your own essential nature, ladies and gentlemen. As morality is lost, Wayne continues, the idea of ritual surfaces. So you try to live in accordance with the rules and customs and rituals that have defined, quote unquote, your people. For centuries, even sometimes. But I could almost hear Lao-tzu saying the Tao is infinite and excludes no one. And these rituals keep us disconnected from the Tao, and we lose them by trying. See, that's a deep sentence there. Simple words, deep sentence. It's like, the Tao is infinite and excludes no one. These rituals keep us disconnected from the Tao, and we lose them by trying. So you rely upon laws, further dividing yourself and creating chaos for ourselves. Again, the Tao just is its own true essential nature. It has no laws, no rituals, no morality, and goodness or badness. Remember the opposite thing there. Once you know you're good, then you've created this opposite polarity of bad that exists. But so that always also goes back to what we were saying before. If you're feeling bad, then you can know that you know the experience of goodness, because you would not feel bad unless you knew its polarity, its opposite. And see, that goes back to the paradoxical nature of unity, oneness, in duality, two-ness. There is this polarity that makes opposites become one, because it wouldn't exist if it wasn't that way, which happens to be one of the natures of reality itself. But once again, back to your essential nature in this reading here, ladies and gentlemen. If you're getting value, subscribe, share this with somebody that you think might get value as well. And thank you still for being here. Now, you know, this again, the Tao just is its own true essential nature. So in other words, act without being concerned for your own ego. And so this could be hard to understand. Give as the Tao does, without condition or trying to be good, moral, or just. Just give to all without preference, as Lao-tzu advises. And so, you know, this can be taken the wrong way. Like when you're being told, oh, yeah, so it's great. The universe is telling us to not be moral, to not be just, or to not be good. So I can just go be the worst person ever in the world. If that's what you're getting from this, then unfortunately, you're on the wrong level. Because what's being described here is the paradox and the chaos that is created in our attempt to be good, moral, or just, because we have to create these structures, rituals, and systems, and rules, and whatever else it is that create a condition of false morality, false justice, and false goodness. And so, once again, we're trying to avoid creating the polarity by being able to connect to and sit in the oneness that is our true essential nature, that is the Tao. So, what's being said here is that what Wayne Dyer says is, I admit that living by this 38th verse may be the total opposite of what you've learned in this lifetime. It certainly represents both an intellectual and a behavioral challenge for anybody. He says, for me at times. But you may appreciate knowing that many of the scholars whom I researched, Wayne says, regarding this verse said that Lao-tzu wrote it, and the next one, in response to his opposition to Confucius, his contemporary, who laid out specific edicts and codes of conduct for the people. And, you know, everybody knows the old Confucius say, or Confucius says. So Confucius was one of these high-minded individuals as well back in the time. And man, to be in the same room with Lao-tzu and Confucius, that's a good tea, ladies and gentlemen. Soothing pleasures are the best. Tea soothes the soul. Oh yeah, and the little lesson on the tea bag here is, the one who listens understands. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, listen more. Listen more and try to dominate and win less. So you may appreciate knowing what Wayne Dyer was saying, that many scholars whom he researched regarding this verse said it was his opposition to Confucius. What Lao-tzu seemed to be saying to me through meditation, Wayne Dyer says, was trust your own essential nature, let go of all polarities, so these opposites, and live within the invisible oneness that is the Tao. The dichotomies of good, bad, right, wrong, proper, improper, legal, illegal, and the like can be difficult, but just remember when they surface that the Tao is lost. Here's some more advice through Wayne to us from Lao-tzu. Live in your essential nature by rejecting artificial principles, ladies and gentlemen. So what he means by this is these principles in descending order are goodness, fairness, rights, and laws. Artificial goodness is an attempt to live by not being bad. So that's a simple way to put what's being described here. This artificial goodness comes from an attempt to live by not being bad. So you allow others to decide where you fit in on a goodness scale. And see, this is all just us making this up rather than living by our own true essential nature. Goodness. So he goes, you can affirm to yourself, I am of the Tao, a piece of God, and I need no human-made device or description to confirm it. You are divine, ladies and gentlemen. You're sovereign, you're free. You are a part, a piece of the Tao of God, of universal intelligence, of great spirit, divine wisdom, whatever it is you call it. And we need no human-made device to confirm it. Goodness and godness are one and in me, and I trust who I am and will act from this perspective. I am staying with this truth and not what is false. Wow, that's a powerful one there, ladies and gentlemen. Furthermore, Wayne Dyer continues, see that the Tao isn't concerned with fairness. Give of yourself, knowing that this is an artificial contrivance, or artificial creation, a fake creation, something that we've come up with and built up that cannot exist from a perspective of oneness. You are form and will return to that oneness regardless of our opinions about it. So open up generously without desiring to be treated fairly. It's like the more that we try to be fair, the less that we really are. The more, it's like the person who tries to brag about how humble he is. I'm so humble, and the moment that you speak about how humble you are, the moment you have lost it. Number 2 here, abandon outmoded familial and cultural customs. And this is going back to the principle of rituals here that was talked about. What we do underneath the laws. Remember, you try to be good, first of all, by not being bad according to all the things that we've made up. And then you maybe and then you try to be, just and lawful according to all the rules that we've made up. And then you fall into rituals and customs. And so there's these layers and levels of these structures that we've created that are outside of the goodness of the Tao, ladies and gentlemen. So once again, abandon outmoded familial and cultural customs. Relinquish rights, Wayne Dyer says, that you feel compelled to follow simply because they've been that way in your lifetime, and particularly in your family. Peacefully affirm to yourself, I am free to live, trusting in the eternal Tao. I do not have to be as my ancestors were. I relinquish ancient rituals that no longer work or that perpetuate separation or enmity. Remind yourself that goodness isn't accessed by obeying laws, rather, it is what resonates with your essential nature. You don't need any sort of code to decide what is proper, good, moral, ethical, or legal. Trust yourself to be an instrument of love by surrendering to your highest nature rather than being seduced by mortal laws. This poem, that's funny that how mortal and moral are almost the same word. And there is mortal laws, and then there are moral laws. Well, maybe there's mortal laws, and then there are moralities that are not the same thing as laws. This poem from the 16th century mystic, St. John, titled "A Rabbit Noticed My Condition," beautifully describes this attitude. It was St. John of the Cross. Says, "I was sad one day and went for a walk. I sat in a field. A rabbit noticed my condition and came near. It often does not take more than that to help at times. To just be close to creatures who are so full of knowing." Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. A little kitten distraction there, but the kittens are always fun. So, but that was a beautiful, funny little poem there about the rabbit that noticed the condition. And so he was saying, I was sad one day. This is from the 16th century mystic, St. John of the Cross. I was sad one day, went for a walk. I sat in a field. A rabbit noticed my condition and came near. And he says, it often does not take more than that to help at times. To just be close to creatures who are so full of knowing, so full of love, that they don't chat. They just gaze with their marvelous understanding. And so that's powerful. And so to finish up here, ladies and gentlemen, we have Do the Tao Now, which is why you should get this book. I have it linked in the description below. Just expand it, get it for yourself to put it on your shelf, because at the end of each of these chapters, there's a way that we can practically apply this knowledge into our lives. And so Wayne Dyer says, do the Tao now. Spend a day consciously choosing to notice one of God's creatures, such as a dog, a butterfly, a moth, a spider, an ant, a fish, a cat, meow, kitty, a deer, or whatever attracts you. And see, often for me, which is weird, it's insects. I'll be sitting comfortably somewhere and I'll notice an insect moving across the floor. And, you know, the way that we're taught in society and what we see so often is people just squashing the bug. But when you begin to connect to the Tao, ladies and gentlemen, this great universal force of oneness and not separation, you begin to see that you are the spider, or you are the ant or the deer, or whatever it is. You are connected. And the same God force, the same universal intelligence, this energy or essence that is doing them is also doing you. And so to squash the bug would also be to squash the same God force that is within yourself. And so yesterday I had this encounter. I'm sure you've seen them. There's these certain kinds of spiders that they don't lay eggs, but they carry their young on their back until they're ready to release them. This is off subject, but I've encountered this in the past and realized that when I use force or, non-oneness, when I use separation of any kind, it does not work. And I end up with more problem than if I were just to watch and observe and not do anything about it, or maybe not try to force the essential nature of the situation. And so yesterday I had this opportunity and I observed and I guided and was able to guide the creature out the door. rather than any other forced action that I may have done in the past and that we all may be so used to squashing the bug. Now, so spend a day consciously choosing to notice one of God's creatures. And you can learn a lot from them about trusting your inner nature. They are, as the poet says, so full of knowing. So full of knowing. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, that was a powerful one. That's a boom to knowledge. Boom to knowledge. That was the 38th verse of the Tao Te Ching, which Wayne Dyer said is connected to the 39th verse, which he titles Living Wholeness. And I thought it was personally connected to the previous verse. That was simplicity. Fantastic. Fantastic. So I think what that had to do with mostly was coming to know oneness. Coming to know oneness and living within your own essential nature. Boom, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'll leave it there. And tomorrow we have Wednesday Wisdom. We'll be reading from Wisdom of the Ages, ladies and gentlemen. And that should be a good one because we just did mystery. And then we're on to the great poet, mystic, dramatist, and artist, Khalil Gibran. But ladies and gentlemen, I think it's really important to take the time, like Wayne said, there was one line in this verse that he took the time to meditate on. You got a lot to say today, maybe. Yeah. And so continue to seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment. Continue to seek to discover the hidden wisdom of the ages and continue to make happiness the way. Because when we can make happiness the way, ladies and gentlemen, then the goal that we've been striving for, I'll be happy when I get there, becomes irrelevant. Because we're already there. And then the whole journey is wonderful. Once again, thank you so much. I love and appreciate everybody. Be sure to leave a comment and let me know what you think. Be sure to expand the description and check out the links I have there to my landscape paintings, as well as these books and C60 Purple Power Ultimate Antioxidant I've been using for many years now. And try to be the change in your life that you've been hoping to see. Try to be that reflection in the mirror of goodness that people see when they look out in the world. And maybe we can make a little bit of a difference. Until tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Be sure to subscribe, smash the like button, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. Take care.